Most of the Canadian household earning $200,000 are going to retire poorer than they expect. Yes, you heard it right, not an error. This is not because you didn't save. This is because the vehicle used for that particular saving stopped working for you when you crossed the income of $150,000 or more. You might be contributing to your RRSP for years now, but tonight I will show you how that has been the biggest financial habit or mistake you ever cultivated and how it can affect you at retirement. If you want to know more, stick around where we look at everything from our episode and see what we can do to resolve it correctly. Let's see what this episode is. Season 1, Episode 16. Your RSP is a tax trap. And here's the math, the math behind the gap, and three silent decision eroding your wealth you already earned. Look at this number, $290,000. This number is going to mean very much to you, Henry of the world, once you figure out what this number is. This number is specifically, in your case, is the gap between maxing your RSP and actually keeping it. Core problem. Why is this happening and why are we not aware of it? This is called the RSP arbitrage paradox. This means today you're contributing at this particular marginal tax rate, 20 and 33% in today's contribution limit. That is your marginal tax rate and you get a deduction. Now you might be thinking, oh, that's good, right? I'm getting a deduction, I got to reduce my taxes, I'm happy. Because you're thinking retirement, your retirement actual tax rate will be 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, or maybe maximum between 20%, right? But that is not how it's going to be at retirement. At retirement, your actual effective tax rate that you will be taxed when you withdraw the money at retirement, it will be around this number, 26 to 33%. That is your retirement at withdrawal. And now look at these two numbers. That is why it's called arbitrage, because you were thinking go to contribute at higher rate, but when you take it out, it will be lower. But when you look at those two numbers, your arbitrage is just gone, zero, because that is going to be your effective tax rate. So you see, same bracket, arbitrage you promised never arrived. That's why we talked about in last episode. Blindly following a strategy that allows or is made for majority of Canadians is the worst thing you can do for your investment because you are not ordinary individuals. You're Henry of the world. You're making $200,000 or more. So you need to be more careful with your investment and how you plan it, how you action it, and how you set it up. So remember, the problem is not RSP. Now, that was built how exactly it was supposed to function. The problem is it does not work for you because you're using it in the wrong way. Now let's look at the root causes of why it happens. Three forces quietly eroding your wealth. Number one, the CPP drag. This is a mandatory wealth tax. If you're not sure or if you're not aware, you might get surprised or you already know about this. Let's see what is it. This is the maximum or the mandatory tax you have to pay when you're self-employed or you're employed. 2026, that number for a single employee having a T4 is $4,230. Now, dual income household, double that thing, correct? And now you might be thinking, okay, this is compulsory, right? What I can do about this? But remember, that's the money if you invested, especially $10,000 every year, a 7% growth, you will get around $1 million back in 30 years. But that is just given up to the government because you're forced to do it. And then what do you think you're going to get in retirement? If you get something in retirement, not be 7%, guarantee you that. 3 to 4% if you are lucky. Does not end here. 20%, These are for the Henrys that are self employed. So they have to pay both from the employee and the employer side. So they get double hit of that. Second, the withdrawal trap. Maxing without modeling. This means if you just max out your RSP without modeling it at what your tax return is going to be in retirement, and you might be thinking, as we talked about last slide, it will be lower compared to what it is right now. You might be in for rude awakening because that is not how it is designed, and you will realize it at retirement. So you might as well realize it now when you have the time to change it rather than getting pinched at retirement. Zeros roaming around, but that is exactly the arbitrage you're going to get $0 if the rates are equal, correct? It's very important. Number three, we got the capital gain blind spot. What is that exactly? If you're not aware, Canada has a two-tier tax code. I'll be thinking, what is two-tier? I'm not sure what is that. Let me explain to you what two-tier is. This means 2023, Ottawa has quietly handed entrepreneurs an asymmetrical capital gain relief. So, if you are just an employee earning T4, you might not get some specific deductions in your favor, even though you might have the same net worth compared to a Henry, which is self employed. And that was passed in 2023. So, we're already close to 3 years inside it. And that is a two-tier tax code. For Henrys at T4, maybe earning same or higher levels compared to Henrys that are self employed. Because remember, they're also paying higher effective tax at 20%, right? So there is some fairness over there in the system. But you need to be aware of that. That is a two tax tier code system when you get to that levels that you all are Henrys, right? Started 23 when this particular system began. Right now I think most of you are just getting aware of it right now. So what are the effects of that? What will this cost you in real dollars? $340,000. This is additional after tax wealth over 30 years or over 20 years. Look at this number, it will make more sense once I go to the next slide. This is the compounding gap. This means if you're earning $240,000 and redirect 15,000 of that every year instead of RSP to a TFSA or knowledge account, you will end up with this much money that you will have, not the government. That's the difference. Because compounding work in both ways, in your favor and against you. 100%. What is that? This is the each RSP withdrawal is taxable. So remember the flexibility penalty. If you don't know what is it, this is every RSP withdrawal is taxed at your full marginal tax rate. Remember this. So when you contribute to it, you get a deduction, sure, but it gets taxed at your marginal tax rate. If you look at TFSA non-reg, there is no such penalty. This means you might contribute to RSP, but you can't take the money out without suffering a heavy financial penalty. But TFS and RSP, sorry, TFSA and any other items or in the non-reg account, no such issues because it's not taxed as a particular effective tax rate. Correct? That's why flexibility becomes important when you need liquidity right away and don't have it in your hand. At that time, flexibility becomes more important than having the money saved for retirement. Now, that is the threshold where OAS becomes phantom income. This is for our third, the OAS clawback trap. This means if you're not aware, there is something called an OAS clawback trap, which begins if you're earning retirement close to $90,000 or more. So if you're earning that much amount, government will want their money back in terms of OAS that you contributed yourself. Now, for most of the people that are not Henrys, this might not be a reality, right? They might never get this much amount on any retirement. But for the Henrys of the world, we talked about in our intro and throughout our episode, That is a very reasonable income they can get. If the retirement income or investment is set up correctly in a proper manner, this is something very normal for them. And so when you get that, you get hit by it. And on top of that, you RSP withdrawal. Because remember, RSP has to be converted into RIF after age 71. So you can't delay it forever. So you have to take the withdrawal. Imagine that and this gone. The money you thought you were going to have saved at retirement is all taken out. And then OS clawback trap, right? Now let's look at the action plan for today's action plan is 4 moves before next contribution. Number 1, model before you contribute. This means protect your requirement, project your retirement marginal rate. So do a calculation, do your projections at 65, at 70, considering your CPP, OAS, either income that you have. If the difference is between 5 percentage points, stop the deduction or stop your contribution right now, because that money is well diverted in some other investment or other vehicle rather than RRSP. So make sure if that is between that 5 points, don't add any other dollar to that particular vehicle. In this case, RRSP. Second, max the TFSA first. If not contributed ever, the accumulation room 2026 is $102,000. This is your highest after compounding you get if you're not a business owner. This means you can put the money in, let it grow, take it out when you want. Remember, contribution $102,000, $102,000 only if not contributed before. If you have contributed before, it will be lower. But remember, that's the money you can put in and take it out, any penalties, any issues, tax free, anytime you want. And compared to RSP, you take the money out, the contribution is given back to you. In RSP, you take the money out, contribution room is gone forever. You can't have it back next year. Very big difference. Number third, optimize non-reg for capital gains. So you might be thinking, or you might be remembering from last episode, we need to make sure that if you are using non-reg account or non-registered account in this case, it needs to hold high growth, low distribution ETFs. This means ETF doesn't give you constant monthly or quarterly dividends. Now, why is that? Because when it gives you dividends, it will be, if it's Canadian companies, most of them will be, it will be gross up, and then you'll have to pay tax on it, even though you haven't used the money. And that becomes a problem because your tax rate will go up. So make sure if you are using non-reg account, put ETFs or stocks in there that doesn't have constant distribution and only holding it for capital gain, because it's only charged when you sell it, 50% tax rate. So it's not free like TFSA, but it's still better than just getting dividends every month that you might not use but still get charged on because it get gross up of Canadian dividend tax credit. So make sure you remember that. Model CPP deferral to 70. If you're not aware, if you defer your CPP from 65 to 70, it will become 8.4% higher. So by 70, your CPP is eventually 42% higher than if you take it at 65. You might be thinking, what should I do if I want to retire early? You want to wait that longer? You can use the RSP, because that you can withdraw anytime you want at retirement, right? At very close to retirement before it's turned into REF, or use a non-reg account, correct? So if you use those things before you kick in your CPP, you'll end up having a large amount of money at the end and no clawback because you're using other income, so your sources will go down, but the tax will also go down. So you will not have that much income, so no OS clawback as we talked about. That was our today's episode. Make sure you know what your RSP withdrawal is and whether it is the right investment for you. Because remember, every dollar you contribute to RSP, CRA has a claim on it, whether you like it or not. So Make sure you know properly what you're investing in. Check in with projections. Make sure to consult a financial advisor or planner if you're not sure. But I want to hear or see specifically in comments the TFSA versus RSP ratio. I want to see how my portfolios, or specifically how Canadian Henry's portfolio, are tilted towards. It's more toward RSP or it's more toward TFSA. Once again, this is Fine Pin Canada, Calm Finance, no hype. Make sure like and subscribe, and we'll see you back in next episode discussing another topic for Henrys of the world, specifically Canadian Henrys, and see what we can discover together. Have a good one.